to Scoring Opportunity, currently 50% of all Bundesliga Fantasy Manager podcasts. I am your host Fred, and this is episode 4 for Matchday 13. On today's show, we'll do a quick review of Matchday 12, take a look at my own team, answer your listener questions, and end the show on the top 3 differential picks per position and the top 3 punts of the week. You can find me on Twitter under @TimeToNotebremse, and you'll find the show under @ScoringUp_pod, where every week I'll post a call for listener questions. If you'd like a question answered on air or via Twitter, please feel free to contact the pod. Let's get right into it. On to the matchday review, and we'll start with the Friday evening upset. Do you believe in miracles? Augsburg beats Bayern 2-1, and after 36 minutes it was 2-0. I, for one, am really glad not to have gone all in on Bayern, especially after the news that Kimmich and Süle weren't playing. Bayern did pull one back quickly, but Augsburg didn't make it easy for the rest of the match, and Bayern deservedly lose their second Bundesliga match of the season. The Augsburg fullbacks Pedersen and Iago were the match's top scorers. Lewandowski and Miller both ended on 10 points. This match didn't produce a firework of fantasy points as many expected. If Augsburg continues to play like this, though, their fullbacks Iago and Pedersen will be on my radar because they were involved in a lot of the Augsburg attacks. On to the Saturday matches, and first we'll go to Bochum's 0-1 away defeat to Leverkusen. A third-minute Adli header sealed the victory for Leverkusen. Adli, Frimpong, Radetzky, and Wirtz all scored 13 or more points. Adli is playing out of position as a striker, but I'll assume he'll play a deeper role or start on the bench once Schick is back from injury. Frimpong continues to have one foot in our teams with another impressive fantasy match. His 18 points were the most in the match. On the Bochum side, only Löwen, Suarez, and Asano scored a decent amount of points. Suarez is good value for his price, averaging 7 points per match. Next up is Gladbach against Fürth, and it was a demolition. Fürth continues to look lost in the first tier of German football, and for Fürth, this match, fantasy points-wise, was a disaster, with Funk, their goalie, scoring the most points with a measly 5. Gladbach, of course, benefited from the lack of quality in their opponents, with 7 players scoring 9 or more points. Hofmann and Stindl were the top scorers with 23 and 19 respectively. Hofmann continues to be a must-have, but Stindl is too up and down to be a serious candidate for my team. On last week's show, I hyped up Benzebaini a bit, and with 10 points he didn't disappoint. But with Scally, I already had a Gladbach defender, and I don't really want to double up there. Moving on to Dortmund at home against Stuttgart. There we saw the home side pull out a 2-1 victory with Royce scoring the winning goal 5 minutes from the end and also scoring the most fantasy points in the match with an impressive 18 points. Hazard, Malen, and Guerrero scored 13 points each. Folks will be relieved to see the Guerrero of old getting those points. Hopefully he can stay injury-free. Well, it doesn't look like it at the moment, but further down the road. Stuttgart did not have a great game fantasy points-wise, with defender Karazor scoring the most with 11. Stuttgart's goal scorer Massimo is a fringe option for me because he only costs 4 million ducats and averages 6 points per match. Next up is Bielefeld against Wolfsburg, and for a while it looked like the second major upset of the weekend, but Wolfsburg was able to overcome a 2-0 deficit to nab a point in the end. From a fantasy points perspective, this match didn't perform. No players scored more than 10 points in the match. But players to highlight are Patrick Wimmer, who scored 6 points despite needing to be substituted out in the first half. He was running around with a protective mask due to a facial injury and still managed to get the assist for the 1-0 Bielefeld lead. He's averaging 6 points per match at a cost of 4.2 million ducats. Lucas Mecha scored another goal under Kofeld and is really putting his name in the hat as a great mid-price striker option. Then we'll move on to Hoffenheim against Leipzig, and wow, did the Red Bulls disappoint. Hoffenheim outclassed Leipzig with 23-5 shots and 2-0 goals. This is also reflected in the fantasy points table for the match. Kevin Akpoguma since his move to the right wingback position, had another fantastic game and ended up on an astonishing 25 points, the highest of all players in this match day. 6 other Hoffenheim players ended up scoring 9 or more points. The best Leipzig scorer was goalie Gulacsi. Moving on to the Berlin derby with Union hosting Hertha. Union were 2-0 victors and dominated the fantasy points table as well. Trimmel, Friedrich, and Gieselmann scored 21, 19, and 16 points respectively, and these guys are all defenders. Marco Richter was the best Hertha player with 5 points. Gieselmann continues to be what Borna Sosa was last season, a severely underpriced premium-level fantasy scorer. Trimmel is also a fringe option as a low-end premium-priced defender. He and Gieselmann are averaging 9 points per match, but Trimmel will get rotated, whereas Gieselmann plays all of his matches. On to the Sunday matches, and we'll start with Freiburg's 0-2 home defeat to Frankfurt. 2 strange goals for Frankfurt led to this scoreline. Freiburg had more of the match in terms of shots, but weren't effective enough with those chances. Lindstrom was lively and scored the most points in this match with 17. Kostic only netted 10, so did Grifo. Ndicka also scored 10 points and has scored 29 in his last 3 matches and is a worthy Hinteregger replacement. Höhler continues to look like a decent third striker option, averaging 8 points per match at a cost of 8 million ducats. The last fixture of the match day was Mainz hosting Köln. Many were expecting a points bonanza, but all they got was a sluggish 1-1 draw. Özcan, Köln's goal scorer, topped the points table with 12. Then Mainz's informed striker Burkhardt with 11 and Uth with 10. Not much else to say about this match other than Modest owners are sighing in relief that he isn't injured after being taken off before half-time and looks ready for the upcoming match day. Moving on to my own team, I ended up on 132 points for the match day. It was a roller coaster of a weekend, what with Bayern losing to Augsburg, Leipzig losing to Hoffenheim, and Freiburg losing to Frankfurt. But I was happy with going with Hofmann over Nkunku as my star man in midfield. Hofmann absolutely crushed it, giving me 35 points for the match day. Gieselmann also continues to impress and provided my squad with 24 points as the star man in defense. All in all, a bit disappointed, but it feels like this every time after an unlimited transfer window. But no need to panic, because we still have like 2/3 of the season left. My first 11 this week were Flecken in goal, Günther, Scally, and Gieselmann in the back, Arnold, Hofmann, Wirtz, and Goretzka in midfield, with Lewandowski, Müller, and Awoniyi rounding up the team. Took a point hit on the Freiburg match because I took out Gvardiol, who scored 3 points, and subbed in Günther. Okay, let's get to your listener questions. This one from Chris Valiker, who asks, for the next 2 to 3 match days, Hertha and Augsburg have fairly good fixtures. Should we be looking at any players from those teams? Hey Chris, thanks for your question. These 2 teams face each other this coming Saturday, but I don't see either team scoring a lot of goals here, and for the coming match days either. So I'd say look at the defenders. As I mentioned in the matchday review earlier, Augsburg's fullbacks Iago and Pedersen are looking alright, and I'll go into more detail in the next segment, but Maxi Mittelstadt can be a differential. As for attacking assets from these teams, I would only recommend Andy Zakiri or Daniel Caligiuri from Augsburg. We have one more question, this one from Trevor, who asks, is Akpoguma a good option against Fürth? Thanks for the question, Trevor. Akpoguma is gaining my attention since his move from the back 3 to a fullback or wingback position, and with Fürth a sinkhole of a club right now, any asset is a good option against them. Plus, Akpoguma only costs 5.8 million ducats, so you could free up some cash for an upgrade in midfield or in your front line. The top 3 differentials for matchday 13 per position are as follows, and we'll start from the back as always. At number 3 we have Maxi Mittelstadt. His name always seems to come up because he sometimes plays out of position as a left midfielder and then has a pretty good game, and he has been playing in a more advanced role in at least the last 3 matches. Plus he's really up and down, sometimes blanking, sometimes scoring 10 to 15 points, but I'm putting his name on the list anyway because of Hertha's upcoming fixtures. They will be playing Augsburg, like we said earlier, and Stuttgart away, and Bielefeld at home, so I feel he could be valuable at a not too expensive 7.1 million ducats. In the 2 spot, we have Akpoguma, another elevator candidate who scores crazy points one week, then barely gets off the mark in another, but he has definitely upped his value since his move to right fullback or right wingback position. He's currently averaging 7 points per match at a cost of 5.8 million ducats. For 7 million ducats, for an average of 7 points per match, you could be the proud owner of Danilo Soares of Bochum. He's been slowly amassing points, but not having outstanding matches. His game is predicated on winning duels, and he's one of the leading point scorers in that category. If you're looking to spread your players out among some more teams, then Soares can be your guy. In midfield, let's start with our second Max. I'm speaking, of course, about Max Arnold of Wolfsburg. Since Kofeld's appointment, he's been playing a more creative role in their midfield, and his points curve is definitely trending upwards. The 2 spot in midfield goes to Florian Neuhaus. Since coming back into the squad, he's scored 28 points in 3 matches. If you're looking to double up on Gladbach midfielders, since I assume you do have Hofmann, Neuhaus is a cheaper alternative to Stindl, who costs 2 million ducats more. The top spot in midfield is Julian Brandt. At 11 million ducats, he's right on the border between mid-priced and premium-priced, but as Dortmund battle to maintain their second place in the Bundesliga without Haaland, Brandt is becoming a more central player in their attack. He's averaging 7 points per match, and I feel he could still pump out those kind of numbers even against Wolfsburg and Bayern in the coming weeks. Up front, we'll start with another Dortmund player. That'll be Marco Reus. With Haaland injured, Reus has had to step up, and step up he has. Reus is averaging 11 points per match in his last 5 fixtures, and just like Brandt, he's essential to Dortmund's attack, and he has a good chance of getting returns even against the likes of Wolfsburg and Bayern. 2 spot in the forward line goes to Lukas Höhler. He's experiencing an upward trend and averaging 8.8 points in his last 5 matches. Despite Freiburg's loss to Frankfurt last weekend, he still managed to nab 10 points. Höhler is a tireless worker, and at 8 million, definitely worth a look. I feel he goes a bit unnoticed because Burkhardt and Modest, who are at a similar price point, score more goals, but they are also around the same amount of points. The top striker differential this week is Andrej Kramaric. Usually picked by a good number of players, he's coming off a slight injury and missed last weekend's match. But his good form can continue against the likes of Fürth and Frankfurt. He's averaging 9 points per match, but he definitely has the potential to get you 15 to 20 points in the match this weekend. My top 3 punts to consider for this match day are Roberto Massimo of Stuttgart, Ilyas Bebu of Hoffenheim, if you can't afford to bring in Kramaric but still want to target that fixture against Fürth, and Jesper Lindstrom, who looked lively last match against Freiburg and is a wait and see how he develops kind of guy. Hey, that was the show for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, please feel free to leave me a question for the show on the Twitter page, and don't forget to make your transfers before 8:25 p.m. Central European Standard Time. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next week, let's have a great match day.